The 419 with Gretchen DeBacker, Matt Killam, and Kevin Mullen.
Welcome into the 419, powered by WGTE and presented by Witro Wealth Management. Easy for me to say. I'm Kevin Mullen.
Gretchen DeBacker.
Matt Killam.
It's always appropriate on Wellness Wednesday that I sound the worst.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I have, I wouldn't describe it as medical information. My mom informed me that Toledo is number 7 on the list for having the worst pollen year.
Now, I would have thought we were 5.
I asked her some clarifying questions, which she eventually became irritated and stopped answering them.
Yeah.
Where did you find this information? Did not remember. I thought it was odd that Toledo, and admittedly, I don't claim to be an expert on this, and certainly not the level of.
You just knew you couldn't accept that information.
There's some holes in it. She couldn't tell me where she got it, what she was looking at, when she said found it.
Yeah.
Found said information. I said, what made Toledo? She's like, oh, I don't. She's like, maybe it was alphabetical. I was like, that doesn't.
That also doesn't work.
But I do think seasonal allergies are here as people are sort of dragging their eyelids or feel like weighted sacks.
Get up in the morning, go out to the car, and if it was raining the day before, windshield wipers are on, and you just watch it just push dust all over the windshield.
Right, that's
right.
right.
All of the pollen all the time.
Do you both have allergies?
I don't.
I do.
I think that I may now
Yeah.
have allergies.
You need to get that
After
needle test.
my mom's article,
Well, now you look into
immediately
it.
I was like, whoa.
I assume that you knew you had allergies, and that's why she was giving you that information.
No, she gives information on a wide variety of topics.
This is just a chit chat.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's just a public service announcement.
Right.
Yeah, inevitably, my wife, like you said, you asked follow-up questions, and it fell apart pretty easily. My wife will ask me follow-up questions to almost any story, and it falls apart pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But, her follow-up questions are actual, common sense follow-up.
That's because men don't get the appropriate details of any story.
Right. So I'll say something like, some story about Matt, and she'll ask, literally the first possible question of,
what happened next?
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
The same. I have. This will make him cringe, but he doesn't live here. My best friend, who you all know about, I've talked about on the show.
Shane.
That's right. Not our just nightmare producer. He's not. He's a friend to no one. His words and everyone else's.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my sister and my mom asked me, about his dating life, and I never know anything. We talk pretty regularly, but I guess we don't talk about subject matter that they are interested in. So I did. The last time I talked to him, I was like, hey, I got to get some information. He was like, why? I was like, I don't know. So
These women.
so I asked him, and he says he's in fact seeing someone. And I was like, okay, I got to ask you some questions here. And I walked down.
That's so weird.
I was like, what is her name? Where did you meet her?
What does she do?
No,
How long have you been dating?
That's that's the end of the story. So I finally, hot diggity dog. I
got
called
the
up my mom.
details.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she was busy because she was doing her pollen research. So I called my sister, and she was like, where did they meet? And I was like, oof. First, right out of the bat, I was like, don't you want to know her name? She was like, why don't you ask me?
Why do I care what her name is?
Yeah. I was like, man, I never get this right.
No.
Don't you want to know if she's left-handed or right-handed?
Yeah.
That's right.
Just give her his number, and
Yeah.
they can talk directly.
Oh my gosh,
That no
fantastic.
one- yeah.
All right, we're gonna take a break. When we come back, we'll kick off our Wellness Wednesday presented by WorkSpring with Chris Tafelski,
Pollen expert.
a pollen expert. I hope he
Noted.
realizes that's
Noted
what we
pollen
just billed him as.
expert.
Let's find out. No, he's not a pollen expert.
We don't know yet.
You know what? He could be.
He could just be
expert.
a pollen aficionado. We don't know.
Poland expert.
Yeah.
I need more coffee.
Oh my goodness. All right, you get coffee. We'll take a break.
Gosh.
When we come back, we'll kick off Wellness Wednesday presented by WorkSpring here on the 419. Support for the 419 comes from Witro Wealth Management, where we understand that your financial path is personal. Advisory services are offered through Capital Investment Advisory Services, LLC. Securities offered through Capital Investment Group, Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. More information at WitroAdvisors.com.
The 419, powered by WGTE, is made possible in part by supporters like you. Thank you.
Welcome back into the 419, powered by WGTE. It is Wellness Wednesday, presented by WorkSpring. We're joined now by Chris Tafelski with ProMedica, You're a licensed professional counselor with the EAP program.
Indeed, yeah. So I have a lot of spaghetti after my name, but licensed professional counselor is usually what I just go with because that's easiest to explain to everybody. So, yeah.
There's a variety of ways to get to this, but I do think sort of the unsung group or the group left behind in terms of care and needing resources is actual caretakers. We have an aging population on a national level, but Chris, can we talk a little bit about the data here, meaning how many people are taking care of other people, anything of that variety, and walk us through sort of the relationship of that?
Yeah, so one of the interesting things about just like our population in the States here is you would think caretakers, you immediately think of like having children at home, right? But as we continue to age as a population, we're now seeing really the tipping point here where we're having more people take care of elderly parents than really children. And I think it's actually 2030, it'll actually be reversed for the first time, where you'll have more elderly parents being cared for by, the population than kids, which is crazy.
And give us, I guess I should blow past a caregiver, caretaker. Is there a clinical definition of that? Give me the root of that conceptually.
Yeah. So I think a caretaker is just that, right? It's going to be defined as anybody. It doesn't necessarily be, I always think caretakers are more like outside, kind of just helping with others, whereas you get the caregivers directly doing the caring, right? So there might be, you could be both really as a child, right? Taking care of your parents or again, same with your kids. But I think a caregiver is more that a full-time role where a caretaker, could be a disposition, right? I think of fire, police, doctors, nurses, they're all caretakers. And then caregiver, I think we really more in the action, so to speak, yeah.
Okay.
There's so many people that are they refer to it as the sandwich generation that have kids that maybe not even in high school, grade school kids, and are also taking care of aging parents. Many of our parents that want to stay in their home and continue to get the support of their children.
Yeah.
So how does that impact them at work? These are people that are also working full-time jobs. And so what kind of stresses?
And what role does pollen play in all of this?
Yeah.
It makes
I
it
wish I
better,
could say
right?
the pollen. Yeah. No, probably not. Yeah, no, that's one of the most difficult things, I think, for folks at work, because they often suffer in silence, right? They don't want to say anything to work because, I have a job I love, but also I got to do this. And it's almost that point of feeling like this is not just an obligation, but something I want to do, right? So they'll just usually suffer in silence often. One of the ways that we often, when we get, leadership is, hey, make it a conversation, right? I mean, don't, I guess, make it so it feels like, it's taboo to talk about it. Make it normalized in your workplace. This is a reality we're facing. And I think helping leaders be flexible with their timing, but it is often in silence because I'm either embarrassed or I don't even know that I'm really going through this. It's kind of normalized. So
there's two pieces of this, as there are in most things, right? There's a physical exhaustion, right? The sandwich generation is a new phrasing to me, but that certainly makes sense.
Yeah.
So there's a physical component of it, but presumably this is a parent, right, that they would be taking care of, or potentially an older sibling. The role of parenting your parent is wild.
Yes.
And it's layered in as things are, by definition, I guess, in a multitude of ways. Can you dip into both of those sort of buckets, psychological component of it as well as the physical?
The physical one I think is most obvious because you go home and you just feel wiped, right? And I think we often don't recognize the signs of stress. And mostly because we live in an environment that's stressful. So, you just kind of normalize yourself with like, woo,
well said, Chris.
But I think physical is easy. You kind of go home, need a lot more rest. But really the psychological component's the part that I most worry about because ultimately that stress that you're feeling, right? Our body doesn't know it's not a saber-tooth tiger. It just knows it's stressed. Yeah. And so therefore it kind of goes through the process.
Some of the parents are saber-tooth tigers though.
Oh, well, that's true.
There's no reason to split hairs.
Right.
Your mother.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you were talking about my mom for a second.
We might be related. Yeah.
But yeah, to me, that's where the high blood pressure and the potential for diabetes, even like really the risk of alcoholism or using substances.
Yes, yeah, it's a sort of numb.
So what you're saying is your mothers are driving you to drink, is basically what you're saying.
I did have, this was years ago, my mom called me on some sort of tech support something.
Yeah.
And I literally
How warm.
but it was like, I need you to just fix my printer, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, hang on one second. And I literally muted the phone, went over and got a glass of wine. And I was like, swear to God. And I was like, okay,
funnel.
now I'm ready.
It's funny because it's so true and it happens all the time. Literally just celebrated Mother's Day. We were at my mom's house and she's like, I was trying to renew my passport online. And I was like, what are you talking about? First of all, why do you need a passport? That's number one. Number two, what website were you on? And she's like, I don't know. It just never worked. It never worked. And I said, well, did it look like a government website? It's like, it did. And I said, well, that's what they make them look like. I said, did you put your social security number in, your passport number? Did they ask all this stuff? And she said, no, I didn't put it in. And knowing full well that she did. So what are the things?
Yeah.
What
your
are some
mom or dad are lying to you?
Yes.
Yeah,
or some
that's
practical,
a great example.
sort of some practical things. I mean, that caregivers, children of aging parents, which my mother would quite literally want me to never say the term children of aging parents, but can do. Like, what are some practical steps or things that we can turn to for what should be there to protect our parents?
Keeping our children safe is easier because they don't have car keys and a credit card.
That's right.
Right.
Right? Like our parents have those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and with aging parents, of course, you have to worry about, like, even my mom's now in assisted living, but you always worry about, like, oh, what if she does get out and get in a car, right, and try to drive somewhere, and she forgets where she's going, right?
Sure.
So there's all those, extra layers. You're right. I really try to break it down to a couple things. The term self-care, I think, is so overused, right? Because all of a sudden we think of gadgets and things like lavender baths, and you're like, yeah, that's kind of part of it,
I
right?
immediately go to lavender bath.
Right. Well, you look like that guy.
Yeah, you can just tell by my skin that is a guy with a regimen.
Yeah, that you're moisturized for sure.
Yeah.
I think I try to break it down to pillars, right? So what are you doing physically for yourself? What kind of, like, just movement? I know we're tired, right? We talked about the fatigue there, but still getting something that's physically active for yourself. The other thing I really have people lean into is their social components. We've always heard that it takes a village to keep, raise a child, but it really takes a village to keep us sane. We need that person that we can emotionally connect with, but just dump. And I'm going to use a Dave Tippett here thing, right? The BMW, bitch, moan, and whine with, right? But we need somebody we can do that where they're not going to judge us for it. They're not going to use it against us later, but just listen, right? Not fix, listen. We need that person. You need somebody who's going to push you and somebody who's going to support you. So you need all those people in your lives. So I'd like the social component aspect of it. I also think it's the mental wellness. What are you doing to kind of stimulate yourself, right?
Sure.
You get so dragged down often by caring because it's just, part of the gig, right?
It's your routine now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and if you don't go, you feel that guilt coming through.
Yes,
but
of course.
are you doing things like reading a book? Are you listening to podcasts, right? Are you going through the process of, doing something fun for yourself, and it doesn't have to be lavender baths. Maybe an pollen.
Yes, it does.
It does.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
You're
Pollen, I'm taking a pollen bath.
Pollen lavender bath.
Your employer deals with a particular type of employee, someone that may be caring for children, caring for parents, but also caring for the public that comes in to be treated and to be cared for. So what particular needs or things does ProMedica do for your team to help them?
Yeah, so I'm part of the Employee Assistance Program. I think that's one of our favorite things to always talk about. If you feel stuck, right, we're here for you that. To me, the other parts of it really is, again, they encourage wellness. So they've shifted to like a wellness type format this year to really kind of, hey, what are you guys doing for yourself? What are the stories you're out there? But I think for our, all our medical professionals that we deal with pretty consistently, they're terrible at taking care of themselves.
Sure.
I wish they were better, but look, I'm a counselor. I'm terrible at taking care of myself sometimes.
Yeah.
We get so busy and so hung up. So you're caring for people at work, going home and often doing the same thing. So a lot of it is trying to find that balance, right? How do I like the work-life harmony. Like sometimes it is more fun to be at work, but sometimes it's more fun to be outside of work. So how do you kind of keep that harmony inside your life?
What are some of the red flags for, I guess, for even self-diagnosis, which is really challenging?
Right.
Or looking out for others as an employer or as a caring loved one? Like, what are some warning signs? And then also, Chris, I don't know if there's a formula to this, but how long does it take somebody on average to sort of reset? Meaning, my mother has just, our father has just been placed in assisted living. We've got some memory issues. I'm there a couple times a week.
Mm-hmm.
It's upsetting in a multitude of ways. So what are the warning signs, and also how long does it take to get yourself righted?
Yeah, so I think some of the warning signs is usually when you're not acting like you. I think if the people around you need to be the ones you're listening to, because when you start to get withdrawn, or, to me, it's just getting short, right? If you're not a person that's usually have a pretty long patience streak and all of a sudden you're getting real short with people, probably a sign somebody needs to take a look and go, hey, are you okay, right? Those are some of my classic ones. I think the other thing is when sleep's disrupted, right?
Yeah.
I'm feeling off, or I feel like I'm sleeping, but I'm not getting rest, right? Even if, I know there could be other medical issues going on, but often if it's not you and all of a sudden you're like, I feel tired all the time, well, that's probably a good sign, right? It's that stress coming into fatigue. In terms of the second part, resetting yourself is such a hard question because everybody's so unique, right?
Yes, right.
I would love to say, like, follow this pathway and you'll be good. But truthfully, this is what I tell all my clients that come in. I wish I had a magic formula for you. We just got to try some things out, right, to see what it's going to be. Working with fire and police, one of the things we talk about is their first day off, what we call a recoup day, right? Like, hey, look, we're going to minimize things you're doing. We want you to get back into the flow of life. And then second day, we really want you to be engaged with your family and kind of loved ones and kind of getting back into yourself. But that's just because it's where their job flows. I think everybody else is kind of a bit of trial and error.
That must be helpful to get someone to give them permission to, right? If you have high functioning people or people that are in service with others like fire and police, not that people feel guilty if they are sitting around.
Right.
Or a partner, you have this list of things that you've got to get done in a limited amount of time that is actually yours. Go ahead.
We're talking with Chris Tafelski, licensed professional counselor with ProMedica here on a Wellness Wednesday. I guess so. You identify the red flags in yourself. Maybe you turn to the lavender bath and the podcast and some of those traditional self-care
and I drink
things.
them both.
That's right.
You're right.
But I guess from a who can you turn to help, right? If beyond I can do this stuff for myself, right? Because generally, we're bad at putting the oxygen mask on ourselves,
right?
But if I'm going to ask for help, who can I ask for help from?
Yeah, I think if your company offers an employee assistance program, I think that's probably one of the best places to always start, because often it can get you into referrals, right? So you may go there and whatever session number, it may not be enough, and you're just like, hey, I need some more, I need some help, and then let them help you find placement. When I think about getting a long-term, counselor or social worker for you, I think of a couple of aspects. Is one, do they have do they take my insurance probably first, but two, do they have the skill sets I'm looking for? And then three, do I feel like I personally match with them? So if you get through the process of I need help, and somebody's saying I need help, and I'm going to go get help, it's okay to shop around with your therapist. Find the right one.
You mentioned the EAP program as the first place to look. I want to have kind of a candid conversation about that, because I'm self-employed now, so I don't have an EAP program, right? Just deal with it yourself. But in previous employers, I've always been hesitant to go to the EAP for fear that if you go and say, hey, I'm feeling depressed, or I'm feeling this, or I'm distracted at work, going to HR and saying I'm not a great employee. I was always afraid of that.
Sure.
Yeah, and I love that a good EAP would definitely be separated out and confidential from the company. That's an important step. It's got to be that, because if not, nobody's going to go. So I think talk to your HR and your leadership, but any good EAP will be confidential. That way, they don't even know you're going, right? And that's the important thing. We want to make sure you have a safe place to be able to come, and not anybody ever know you're there, because sometimes it is work stress, right?
The word entitled has certainly a negative connotation to it, but I don't know that that's fair to it by definition. You are entitled to, if you had to walk through that, you are entitled to health, feeling good, a mental space. Right?
Yeah.
And we've talked about, we're closing here, and we've talked about a multitude of complex relationships, right, from now taking care of your parents. But in terms of entitlement, you're entitled to what, in your opinion?
In terms of like for mental health, I think we all have to be aware that it's okay not to be okay at times, but also it's okay to take care of yourself. You know, I think of my dad's generation, it was like, keep everything inside, just hold it in. But I think the more aware we become, and I think the more kind of just going through the process and realizing how it can help, I think it's been great. You know, I'm seeing younger and younger kids come in that are more self-aware to their mental health. But I think we all deserve, you know, a safe place to work, but also, you know, to go through life as best you can. Difficult times lead to growth, and sometimes it's we need somebody to push you through it. But I think everybody deserves a chance to enjoy life, right?
Yes.
Well said, Chris.
Chris Tafelski, thank you so much for joining us here on a Wellness Wednesday presented by WorkSpring. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue this episode of the 419.
To me, community means connecting to others.
I'm Donnie Miller, and welcome to The Point.
I love CBS Kids!
We're a community committed to education. Discover new ideas, dive into exciting subjects, and engage with the world around you.
I would send them personally a t-shirt. Crime doesn't pay in the Old West End, pass it on. That's how we cleaned up the neighborhood.
Vision loss for people is not the end.
It's a story, it's the next chapter.
WGTE Public Media invites you to get out and play day.
Monday through Friday, it's the 419 powered by WGTE. With Matt Killam, Gretchen DeBacker, I'm Kevin Mullen. What can people expect on the show?
It's going to be an hour, a reminder of why this is a great place to live, work, and play.
WGTE, where you come to watch, listen, and learn.
Welcome back into the 419. It is a Wellness Wednesday presented by WorkSpring. We're joined now by our friend Justin Moor with the Area Office on Aging. The last time we had you on the show,
We almost
I was not here.
I didn't take it personally. I did not take it personally.
And so while this is your second
This
time
is
on
Kevin.
the show, it's nice to meet you. Thanks, Gretchen. Let's just catch
Let's talk
people
about how
up.
great that show was run.
It was a great episode. I watched it. It was really good.
Yeah.
You did give us a couple pages of notes, but other than that, I think
I tried to give you notes before the episode, and you didn't listen to any of them. Justin, people aren't familiar. What is the Area Office on Aging?
Yeah, the Area Office on Aging really helps individuals that are 60 plus and their family caregivers with living better and longer. So a lot of what we do is helping get people connected with home care, home delivered meals, maybe senior center, could be transportation and doctor's appointments. Whatever it is that they need, we really want to help them with living better and longer.
And at the risk of somebody missing that episode, or I was running the show, so it's probably our worst ever. I do want to talk a little bit in full candor. You and I are friends, so I know the story, but how you got into this line of work, I think, is important and what it means to you. So if you don't mind, giving us a little background on you, which I know that you are loath to talk about yourself, but if you don't mind, because it's a good segue into the next portion of it. How has this found you in terms of a calling?
Yeah. So my parents raised me, but other than them, the biggest figure in my life was my great-grandpa, who lived to be 104. And up until the last year of his life, he was living in his own home, driving his own car, starring in local TV commercials for an eye doctor, and mowing his own grass, all that kind of stuff. So I admired his longevity. I admired his independence. So the work we do at the Area Office on Aging, helping people live long, healthy, independent life like him, is super meaningful to me.
And it's not just surviving, right? It's about a quality of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk to me a little bit about that portion of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the better part of it, certainly their individuals want to still do the things that they've enjoyed in life. So for us, we try to focus on meeting them where they're at today and what they can do, and helping them thrive. So if people enjoy doing certain types of exercises, making sure that we're helping them be able to do those. If those require accommodations or whatever, if they enjoy gardening, what does it look like to get them raised planters so if they can't bend down as much as they used to, all those kinds of things are super important for people to have that purpose of wanting to live, so on and so forth.
Where can people that are caregivers get not just practical information, but a resource to understand what the person they're caring for is going through?
Yeah.
I've had the experience in the last 6 months or so of my mother and her two sisters and her brother. They're all, very late 70s. We just celebrated my godmother's 80th birthday, but they all are saying the same kind of things. Usually in a jokey way.
Gretchen.
Why are you
Call
here?
less.
Usually in a jokey way, just because that's just how we are. But you know, you guys just don't understand. You're not going to like it when you get here either. You know, what's a resource? Where can we, as people that are trying to help, find out what it is that they're going through, right?
Yeah. So the Area Office on Aging wants to be that resource. We wear kind of two hats as an organization. One is as a direct provider of some services, and the second is as a funder. So Memory Lane Care Services, for example, is a great resource that we contract with. So individuals who need help, whether it be kind of that training, if you will, for those that are in a caregiving role, and what all that entails, they're a great resource for that, especially for individuals that have dementia for their aging loved one, but they also provide adult day services, so those that are working can drop their loved one off at the Memory Lane Care Services, know that they have peace of mind when they're at work, that their loved one's being taken care of, they're getting fed, they're having fun, so on and so forth, and then picking them up after work to be able to provide the rest of the care.
I know that you are a bit of a data junkie and also apply information to strategy. Chris mentioned the aging population. I think that's not a surprise or secret to anyone. But what are the numbers here that you're familiar with? Can you talk a little bit about what kind of where we're at as a society?
So one of every four of us, so us sitting at the table, adults 18 plus in the United States, are family caregivers. That's 63 million individuals. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes they don't identify as a caregiver. They just think I'm a son taking care of my parents or a daughter.
This is what we're to do.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Average family caregiver is 51 years old. Majority of the individuals are women. They're caring for their aging loved ones and the like.
Shocking.
So in the workforce,
just disregard Gretchen's sort of low-level sexist comment.
I believe that's what's clinically described as passive-aggressive.
Yeah. I've been diagnosed with that.
But the average individual that they're caring for is 80. Mm-hmm. So when we just look at the numbers over the decades, so 2010 in the United States, that was 7 individuals were of the caregiving age for every every caregiver. There's 7 individuals to one individual receiving that care. So and now it's 4 to 1, and in 2050 it's going to be 3 to 1. Wow. So there's an increasing burden on those individuals that are of caregiving age in terms of the number of individuals needing care.
Justin, do we know what people that are aging want? Mm-hmm. And then if we do know that, are we doing things as a community or just writ large as a society to figure out that? What I'm talking specifically about is, does the aging population want to stay in their home? Do they want to not go to a nursing home? Do they want to be in? So then what mechanisms are being put in place or need to be put in place to allow that to happen if that's what we know that they want?
Yeah, so the vast majority of individuals, way over 90% of individuals, want to age in place in their own homes, not in a nursing home. That's really what the Area Office on Aging is all about. We do realize there's a time and a place for a nursing home. We want to make sure people are not feeling like they're prematurely forced in a nursing home because of not having the resources in the community to be able to age in place. In terms of what we need as a community, I think while the Area Office on Aging has a lot of resources for family caregivers, there's something to be said of having one place you can go. So we're building a senior center right next to our building, as well as some affordable senior housing. And in the evening hours, we're flipping that into a caregiver center. So when that goes live in 2027, there will be one place those that are caring for an aging loved one can go to start to access services, find out what services are available to them. And the overall goal is that while they might be coming in there stressed, the goal is for them to be able to leave relieved, right? That whatever resources they need, we're having a one-stop shop for them.
Talk to me about, forgive me, Kevin.
Yeah, we're talking with Justin Moor with the Area Office on Aging. I'm curious, I guess, how important it is for that, Gretchen talked about the sandwich generation, right? The caregiver, I've got kids, I'm caring for my parents. How important is it for me to get help versus just to struggle through it and try to do it alone?
Yeah, so those 63 million caregivers, 20% of them individuals are those sandwich generation, caring for an aging loved one as well as kids, right? It's critically important. I'm struck by this video that we did, and we were meeting this family. Son was caring for his aging mom and dad. Mom was bedbound, dad was homebound, son was working, caring for his own kids, so on and so forth. 3 years later, we want to see how that family dynamic changed. Only one of them was alive 3 years later, and it was a bedbound mom. The son unexpectedly passed away in his early 50s because of the stress associated with that, not taking care of himself. So sometimes these family caregivers are very selfless individuals. They're making sure that their mom and dad are getting to their doctor's appointments, being fed, being taken care of, so on and so forth. But at the same time, they're not making their own doctor's appointments. They're not, getting enough sleep themselves. They're not getting exercise themselves. And, at the end of the day, that is not helpful long-term for their aging loved one if they're not around to be able to provide that care to them because they're not taking care of themselves. So it's critically important that they take care of themselves.
Well, that is depressing. Thanks for usual, Justin, spreading your...
But on a happy note, what are some fun things that seniors can get involved in at our senior centers?
Other than pickleball.
Other than pickleball.
Yeah, so there's going to be a pickleball court, part of that senior center we're talking about. But there's going to be chair yoga, Zumba classes. There's different kinds of educational presentations like Tai Chi for falls prevention that's been proven to keep people from falling, so on and so forth. So there's all different kinds of exercise programs, educational sessions, so on and so forth.
But talk to me, we talked a little bit this with Chris just right before you, but the physical portion of it, I think most people kind of get. But the social component of it, at minimum, knowing that there's other people that are sharing the same feelings you are, the conflict, like the guilt of not feeling like, just the math of what you just said, feeling you're not serving anyone properly, let alone yourself. Right. So can you talk to me about what the social component of it, sort of takes a village mentality that I know that you shepherd. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so for sure. So one of the programs that's available for family caregivers is a caregiver volunteer respite program where they might need just a couple hours to get away and the like. So we pair them with a background check trained older adult volunteer that's 55 plus that's coming in the home and visiting with their aging loved ones so they get a break for a couple hours to be able to go to their own doctor's appointments, go have a friend or a coffee, with a friend, so on and so forth. So that's just one of many programs that we have available to really make sure that that socialization piece is taken care of.
Chris, we just talked a little bit with, Justin, we just talked a little bit with Chris about sort of online security. It's one of the things that really scares me about my mom, particularly because her position is, well, it wouldn't be online if it wasn't true, right? They can't just put a website up there and have it be a scam.
Yeah.
But they can. What is something you would recommend? I don't want to say parental controls because that's for children.
That's a legitimate question.
Something, we're going to have Dan Dower on from Key Bank. People can get their money stolen.
For sure.
People can, put their identity and stuff in online, and then next thing you know, all of their money. What are some things that you would recommend as an advocate for the aging population when it comes to the online space?
Yeah, so certainly making sure that filters are in place, right, on the router and the like. That's one way to help keep some of the bad actors out. Making sure that people are socially engaged is another thing. I think oftentimes individuals that are predators are looking for that vulnerability to exploit. And for many individuals, it is that they're lonely, right? So just giving a phone call to an aging loved one to get them some healthy socialization so they're not so thirsty, if you will, for socialization from a bad actor.
Sure.
I think you talk about that socialization piece, right? I mean, it's so hard. We talk about it with my friends all the time about like just how hard it is to make new friends at this age, right? But I think about, my parents are reaching that age where friends are starting to pass away, and it's already hard to find friends, and you're losing the friends you have. What are some of the things you guys are doing to help, folks, the aging population, stay connected with their community, make new friends, and just get that socialization?
Yeah, I think volunteerism is a great opportunity for that, right? Individuals that are not just viewing volunteerism as something that's doing good for others, but actually it's been proven to do good for individuals themselves, right? Helping them be more socially engaged, meeting new people of all ages and the like, doing something together. So volunteerism is, I think, a great opportunity for people to meet others, new friends and the like. I think senior centers also are a great space for that. Different educational, recreational kind of programs and like individuals that are maybe of a similar age, similar stage in life, so on and so forth.
Tell us a little bit about the senior prom you guys just did.
Yeah, that's another great opportunity, right? So we know that the importance of aging is like eating well, being socially engaged, moving more. And we did all three of those at the senior prom event that we do with Toledo Public Schools. Over 500 individuals, age 60 plus, just had a night of dining, dancing, and the like, and did all three of those things and did it well and had a blast doing it.
It's a great event.
Help me have the conversation with my parents, right? They don't consider themselves to be older.
Yep.
I think that there is certainly I don't use stigma, but there's a brand associated with the Area Office on Aging that I think everybody believes that the Area Office on Aging is for people older than them. How do I start to have that conversation to go, hey, I think this is a great resource you should tap into? Pick up the phone and call. Let's call together. What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, we're all about age, living better and longer, right? Individuals age 60 plus. So I think the terms we use are really important. I think age 60 and better has a positive connotation associated with many individuals. They know their age. They know whether or not you're talking to them. I think so those words are really important. I also think that we're helping individuals set up for success and the like. We should all want that. I think when we bury our head in the ground and think that everything's hunky-dory and so on and so forth and not access different programs and services, we do ourselves a disservice in terms of our longevity and how vibrant we are throughout life and the like. So I do think that it's really important for individuals to realize that there's something for everybody, even if that means that they're volunteering. That staying that old age is 15 years older than I am, I think is reality for many individuals.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think it's really important for individuals to realize that we live, unfortunately, in a pretty ageist culture. We need to be more about kind of the way I grew up, where aging is celebrated. That birthday is something that my dad rented a spotlight for my great-grandpa out by the road when he was 100, and I remember standing out there as a little kid and people honking and the like. And that rubbed off to my grandma, his daughter, right? I remember when she was in her 80s, she was always looking forward to her next birthday because she was one step closer to living to be 100 like Poppy or and the like. So I think we need to create that kind of culture within our family where aging is celebrated. People don't feel like they have to be closeted about their age, but instead we're celebrating it.
Talking about income requirements to access services, programs, is this tied to income?
So the vast majority of the programs and services available through the Area Office on Aging are not tied to income. There are some Medicaid-funded programs we have that are tied to income, but the vast majority of the programs and services available through us are not tied to income.
Incredible. People want more information on the Area Office on Aging. Where can they find it?
People can always call us at 419-382-0624 or visit our website at areaofficeonaging.com.
What's the next big event coming to the Area Office on Aging?
Yeah, we got a spring fling event coming up here in May, later in May at Sylvania Tam O'Shanter. Again, kind of a one-stop shop of different resources for individuals age 60 and better with helping them live better and longer.
You canceled the
You're gonna be there.
The cage fighting tournament?
Because you refused to participate.
That's
yes.
right. Yeah. I think there's been doping.
I mean, I would pay good money to watch seniors
Matt
just
versus
wail
Shane.
on Matt. I think that's a great idea.
Sure. Yeah.
It's almost like it's
the next fundraiser.
Modern day piñata. Just hit Matt until candy comes out. Justin, thank you. Justin, thank you so much for joining us here. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Dan Dower from KeyBank here on a Wellness Wednesday, presented by WorkSpring. Support for the 419 comes from Witro Wealth Management, where we understand that your financial path is personal. Advisory services are offered through Capital Investment Advisory Services, LLC. Securities offered through Capital Investment Group, Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. More information at WitroAdvisors.com.
Destination Toledo. Whether you're a local or a visitor, Destination Toledo invites you to explore the region and be a tourist in Toledo. Find events, dining, and things to do at visittoledo.org.
WorkSpring. HR issues and employee well-being go hand in hand. WorkSpring supports employers through compliance, training, and wellness because healthy workplaces don't happen by accidents. Learn more at workspring.org.
Toledo Refining Company, a subsidiary of PDF Energy. Toledo Refining Company is a supplier of fuels that keep our region moving. Located in Oregon, Ohio, the refinery processes crude oil into gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and other petroleum products.
And TARTA, celebrating its 55th year of connecting Northwest Ohioans to their community. More information at tarta.com. Welcome back into the 419. We are joined now by a good friend, Dan Dower, president of KeyBank. Dan, thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Dan, I know that historically people's names were given because of their trade or profession, like carpenter, right? Or your last name is Dower. Any relation to just your resting demeanor? Zero. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just get my notes corrected here.
So it's Wellness Wednesday. So maybe let's start just in that wellness space. I'm curious, kind of some of the data around financial wellness. What are you guys kind of tracking? What are some of the things KeyBank's doing to help improve financial health across Northwest Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, financial health is it's very critical, and we think that the origin of a lot of economic mobility revolves around housing. So we're doing a lot in terms of our strategic investments in improving housing and trying to fill gaps in home ownership. We think that housing is really the cornerstone of strong communities.
Dan, in all kidding aside, we see each other quite a bit in passing. I'm a fan. I consider you a friend. My words, certainly not yours. You made a point to make sure that was clear. Dan, give me a little bit of your origin story. Where are you from, and how'd you get to be the Dan we know today?
So from is Bellevue, Ohio, is that answer. Was actually born in West Virginia, and my family moved quite a bit when I was younger. Huntington, West Virginia.
Yeah, sure, all right.
But my parents settled in Bellevue as I was starting preschool, and they're still there. So to me, Toledo is a big, small town.
Yeah.
I tell people now when I see them in passing or on the road that Toledo is home for me, absolutely. Sure. So we've been here since 2010. Met my wife here and raising a family here. Yeah. So physically live in Sylvania, but I've always worked downtown since I've been here. And that's where officed.
Have you been with Key Bank throughout your career, or what?
This is my 13th year at Key.
Okay.
So when I moved to town, I was with a different bank to begin my banking journey. And then after undergrad, I actually I made a 1-year commitment to work in a family business in the Sandusky, Ohio area in building materials. And family businesses, if you get in them, are hard to get out of.
Yes.
We definitely support quite a few of them. And in the roles that I've served leading our business segments at Key. So a 1-year commitment post-undergrad to help my dad turn into almost 4 years. And then kind of a confluence of events got me out of that into Toledo to start a career in finance, which is what my undergrad was.
What is something that people would be surprised to know that the head of a bank has to do every day?
There are a lot of things like this, which probably isn't a big surprise.
How rewarding.
Speeches.
Yeah.
What else do we have to do every day that is
Do you count
surprise?
the piles of money? Do you personally have to count the money?
I do not.
Okay.
Thankfully, there's technology for
like
that.
Scrooge McDuck style, like dive in there.
Do you just go in and look at it?
Vaults are really cool. So
Yeah,
it would maybe surprise people. So my individual expertise is on the large business side. So that was how I came up through commercial credit and managing things along those lines and worked with large businesses. So I still spend a third or more of my time doing that and directly leading that team.
Cool. A lot of folks in the community may know Jim Hoffman, your predecessor as the president. When you were stepping into that role, I mean, certainly big shoes to fill, not just in the workplace, but in the community as well. What were some of your, you think about in the, a sports analogy, new head coach is hired, new GM is hired, they've got a vision for the business. What was your kind of, hey, day one, this is what Dan Dower's Key Bank is going to look like?
Yeah, I think that I definitely learned so much from him, and I was so fortunate to have about a decade or so of overlapping with him. I just wanted to be myself. I want to be authentic. I'm a big believer in authentic leadership and how that will serve you well. One of the other early initiatives that aligns extremely well with our community support is I created a nonprofit task force. So I wanted to have a little better system and data. There was so much that Jim had in his head from 51 years at the bank and 30 years as the market president. And he left me with a lot of good playbooks and ideas. But we kind of knew, specifically on the community side, you're not going to replace somebody like that with one person. And I was already on quite a few boards and trying to find time to balance family things and coaching. And so with my leadership team, it kind of morphed into some ideas of there's got to be a better systematic approach that we can use to tie in some of our prioritization of philanthropy, of employee engagement, employee investments, and get that into technology source. That way it could survive and exist beyond me and make it even easier for people to get involved. Because I was starting to see a gap generationally, but also coming off of COVID and the kind of the remote work time frame when everybody was getting back to the office of, you need to create opportunities for the next generation of people. Not that I'm overly gray-haired myself, although quickly graying by the year, as my kids remind me. Find ways for them to be more involved in community leadership and see the value in that and see how their business can, their career can grow because of their serving of others and serving in the community.
In full candor, at the risk of making you feel uncomfortable, Dan, we met one of the first times right before you walked on stage and gave, I thought, a particularly compelling speech for the Boys and Girls Club. You came off, as I know you to be, as an authentic person, which is admittedly an overused term, but you were genuine and I thought vulnerable, in my words. And again, this might make you cringe a bit, but bear with me here. The duality between, and this is, I guess, maybe an unfair generalization of your job, but someone who is linear in thought, meaning you are in charge of an overwhelming amount of finance, right? And quite literally, that is a linear profession. Talk to me a little bit about what makes you uniquely good. These are my words. You are uniquely talented at serving the humans that live in a community as well as an Excel spreadsheet. What makes you wired to do this at the capacity that you're able to do it?
I think that I would have to thank my parents for how they raised me a lot. I think coming from pretty meager, humble beginnings makes you really appreciate the value of hard work and opportunities. And then number two, I have to thank my wife. So she's exponentially more empathetic and better at those things than I.
So she mentioned that in the pre-interview.
She would mention that, as she should. And so definitely she's, makes me a better person.
Now, where did you meet?
We met in the Old Orchard area of Toledo as I was looking for a place to move.
That's where I grew up.
As my career was bringing me over here. So she was managing a housing apartment complex, and her leasing consultant was out for a late lunch when I happened to stop in, and so I got the tour from her, from the big wig up in the upstairs office. And as I joked, she was immediately smitten, and then as I was offered a job and decided to move here, I naturally had to choose that complex.
Right.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history. What kinds of things do you like to be involved in with your family? You mentioned coaching. What other kinds of things do you do in your limited free time? Right.
A lot of sports. So my son Derek is in 6th grade. My daughter Natalie's in 4th grade. And so we just ran a 5K with her Saturday morning before.
Girls on the Run?
For Girls on the Run, yes. And she was disappointed that Dad did not let her quit. And so she had the fastest time she's ever had.
Wow.
Because Dad encouraged her that you're not going to die and you will survive.
Keep going.
And this is a good thing.
Yeah.
And then later that evening was another community fundraiser thing where I saw Kevin. So she's very busy. She does piano, basketball, volleyball, softball, and then my son is in travel baseball and travel basketball that I coach. I like to golf when I have a chance. I think sleep's important, and I like to work out, stay active. I'm a big proponent of the Y, and that's another one of the community leadership roles that I fill with the YMCA Greater Toledo.
Were you an athlete growing up?
I was a major athlete growing up. It was a big part of my life. I'm the middle of 3 boys, so sports were a big thing. And I saw my dad volunteer a lot of time at the Bellevue Rec Center and serve on the Bellevue Rec board. And sports just taught me so many life lessons. Basketball and baseball.
Who's your NBA team?
Cavaliers. Okay. Although I like college basketball a lot more than NBA.
Okay, all right.
You mentioned college athletics. Obviously, you and I spend a decent amount of time over the winter months across the court from each other at UT basketball games.
That's by court order.
By court order. That's right. Yeah, that's pun intended. That was good.
That's the extent of her basketball.
That's right.
Acumen.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And also her sense of humor. That is the limit.
Yep.
But KeyBank made a
court order.
KeyBank made a historic sort of investment in University of Toledo women's athletics. Talk to me about what that commitment was and why that was important to you and to the bank and the community.
We did. We just announced that in the fourth quarter of last year. So we are the title sponsor and official bank of women's sports across all categories for the University of Toledo. It's one of the most sizable and unique kind of across women's athletics investments in all of the country. So it was really exciting. It was really important for us to
Repeat
do
that
something.
one more time.
Official bank and title sponsor of women's athletics at the University of Toledo.
And that is unique on a national level in what way?
To sponsor all women's sports within an athletic department.
That's not to be blown by. That's really cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, oftentimes the Olympic sports, as we refer to them, like get ignored, right? And
Like
so
dancing and your favorites.
Riding the ponies.
That's right.
As we discussed.
certainly the ponies. But it's the basketball and football will get the recognition, but swimming does not, and
softball
does not,
tennis,
soccer does not.
Women's crew, which is a new sport coming to Maumee River near you.
Yep.
So it's a burgeoning program.
Why that, right? I mean, there's so much energy and pomp and circumstance around football and men's basketball. Why was it important for you guys to support women's athletics?
A couple things. I think women's athletics in particular is absolutely on the upswing. So we think we're entering from a kind of a brand alignment perspective at a really good level. It's also always important to the bank when we make community investments that we do that from a lens of equity. And women haven't always had as much opportunity as they deserve. So we have some unique programs around supporting women business owners and things along those lines. So there was just a lot of natural points of connectivity. And then I also give the athletic department team, Brian Blair at the time, and Connor Whalen and their staff a lot of credit because this started with an outbound call that I made to them. We had some resources to deploy.
Yeah.
But they absolutely hit the ground running and did a lot of homework on our mission and our vision as a bank and what our brand meant. And so they gave us a couple different options, and then we collaboratively decided on something that we wanted to be unique and differentiating and support women in the athletic department here at Toledo for a long time. I think this is Toledo's university, and the stronger it operates, the better we will be as a city, as a region, as a community.
It's so true, Dan.
And as a big sports guy, sports are the front door for the university.
We're talking with Dan Dower, president at KeyBank. All right, Dan, it's now time for
Gretchen's Wacky Quiz.
Nailed it. I'm going to ask 4 rapid-fire questions. Gretchen's going to have you describe Toledo in one word, and then you and Matt are going to list the 9 best things in Toledo. Question number 1, what keeps you up at night?
I think that our education system, to me, lately keeps us up at night. I think we got some school funding challenges, and I think as a community, to be better in 10 and 20 years from now, we need to be better in terms of education.
This will be a fitting follow-up question. Who is your favorite teacher?
That will be Dr. Henry Barker at Tiffin University, professor of finance.
If you opened a restaurant, what kind of restaurant would it be?
Dower's Donuts. Dower Time, your local town.
Mexican is what comes to mind just because that's family's favorite.
The best.
If you had access to a time machine, what point in time would you visit?
And do you have access to one?
I should check the vaults,
Yes,
but
check
I
it.
do not believe that we do. I think we just celebrated our 200th anniversary as a bank last year at Key. And so that was 1825, if you do the math there. And that was before electricity, it was before so many advancements in society. And so I think I would go back there just to try to understand what life was like, what operating any business was like in 1825.
Day one, that's cool. What's the number one, or one word you would use to describe the city of Toledo?
Underestimated.
I'm in.
Good, like it.
All right, let's do the 9. You ready, brother?
Ready.
Fire away.
People.
People.
Absolutely.
Good start.
Great restaurants.
Restaurants?
As we said.
What's your favorite?
Probably Nancy's.
Okay.
Sports. Great sports town.
Great sports town. Where do you take the family if you're going to go to a sports evening?
we're usually playing and/or coaching.
Sure.
If not, Toledo Rockets game.
Yeah, all right, Rockets. All right. Keep going. You mentioned the Y. I know that's important to you.
The Y.
Yep.
Science Center.
Yep. Imagination Station. All right.
Yep. Love that. I love the access. There's no traffic. You can get everywhere you need.
Yep.
All right.
I love the nonprofits. Such a generous community.
Absolutely. Okay, now if you had 10, would you say Metro Parks finally, or just kind of wondering?
I might say WGTE.
See, he's not gonna suck up to you.
Dan Dower
Thanks,
with
Dan.
KeyBank. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll take a break.
Thank you
When we
for
come
being
back, we'll wrap up this Wellness Wednesday edition of the 419.
You laughed with us. You learned with us.
Hi, neighbor.
We made sure your childhood was special. Memories that could only be provided by PBS. For generations, we've given you programs that made a difference. Programs that entertained, informed, and inspired. And today is no different. This is WGTE Public Media in Toledo. It's where you belong.
Support for the 419 comes from Witro Wealth Management, where we understand that your financial path is personal. Advisory services are offered through Capital Investment Advisory Services, LLC. Securities offered through Capital Investment Group, Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. More information at witroadvisors.com.
The 419, powered by WGTE, is made possible in part by supporters like you. Thank you.
Welcome back into the 419 as we wrap up a Wellness Wednesday edition. Great conversation with all of our guests. Packed show.
Yeah.
Dan Dower is just such a nice guy. We didn't talk about it, but I do have to mention they are an incredible partner with WGTE,
Absolutely.
longtime supporter, and certainly we appreciate what they do. Dan, in his leadership, Dan and I had a conversation shortly after he was named president, and he had talked about, and he's too humble to go into it, but talked about how important investment in the community was and nonprofit. And I know he talked a little bit about the systems that they put in place.
Yeah, I mean,
but
there's so much need. I'm sure they get millions of asks. So I think it is important to have a strategy and a commitment to things that they care about and that their employees care about. So.
And then, of course, Justin Moor is
great.
always fantastic. His leadership and vision for the Area Office on Aging, I've got tremendous respect for him and what he does.
And we can see the construction of their new space right down the street here from WGTE Studios. It's coming up quick.
And then we talked with Chris Tafelski about care for caregivers. He's with ProMedica's EAP program, a counselor with them. And I think that's something that again, I use the analogy a little bit of, you put your oxygen mask on first. That's just not how most of us are wired.
Right.
We want to take care of the people around us, and we become the afterthought.
Matt, has your EAP asked you to stop contacting them?
I don't know. I didn't read the order. I was actually brought here for you to read.
Was it a court order?
Yeah.
That's such a good joke.
Which one?
I don't know. One of them.
Which one?
Yeah.
That's how you know it was a good joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's so many.
Yeah.
Layered.
Yeah.
So huge thanks to our guests for being on the program.
Yes.
Thanks to you for listening as well and joining us. And of course, thanks to WorkSpring for supporting Wellness Wednesday, every Wednesday here on the 419. If you missed any part of the show, you can catch it 7 a.m. on YouTube, 3 p.m. on FM 91, or 6 p.m. on WGTE Connects. I'm going to find the camera here eventually. Of course, 24/7, 365 online, WGTE.org/the419. It's the 419, powered by WGTE, presented by Witro Wealth Management.
The 419, powered by WGTE, is made possible in part by supporters like you. Thank you.